On commUNITY, we talk about the issues and we celebrate greatness. Hello, everyone. I'm Claudine Ewing.
And I'm Pete Gallivan. As you can see, we remain socially distant, but our mission remains the same, to bring you great stories from our community.
And this month on commUNITY, we're going to talk about education.
Yeah, it's September, and you know what that means for parents, kids, and teachers back to school. But this back to school year looks like one that we've never seen before. And I was lucky enough to get a tour of a Buffalo school teacher's classrooms. That's right, classrooms, both at home and at school.
I came in last week, and when I came in, I just kind of stood in my doorway for a minute, and I was at a complete loss. In
her 17 years of teaching, Shani Hunt has never had the start to a school year like this.
I knew that I had this task of figuring out how I'm going to teach 2 days a week here and 3 days a week at home.
Never before has she had to set up 2 classrooms to get ready for whatever the school year may hold.
But I have, a desktop, a laptop here, my iPad, and a personal laptop at home. I have teacher manuals here and at home, and we're using the digital platform of Schoology and Microsoft Teams.
So now she prepares supplies for her 5th grade class here at Frank Sedita School number 30 on Buffalo's west side.
We have all these books here that are going to somehow, they have to set up a plan for parents to come pick up the consumables that the kids are still going to need, the textbooks, the workbooks, because the kids still need those consumables at home.
Knowing that her classroom and these hallways will remain empty for at least the first few weeks of school.
We do have our desks that are going to be spaced out so that if we go hybrid, we'll be ready to roll with that.
It is the great unknown for just about every teacher, so they have found support and ideas by leaning on each other.
Questions start coming in about 6 a.m. and teachers are still having conversations all the way to 11 p.m. at night.
In chat rooms and by texting.
Everybody's, helping everybody out.
They know they're in it together and figuring things out pretty much as they go.
Logistically, we have to figure out how are we going to make this outline of a curriculum work.
But in the Buffalo schools, Shani says, they know how they'll be starting out.
For the first 10 days for our district, we're just going to be focusing on the social emotional learning of the students.
Students who have had to deal with 6 months of social distancing and a summer of racial unrest. And the teachers have to focus on that at a distance.
The biggest concern, I would think, for all teachers with the digital part of it is getting kids to log on, getting kids to buy into the virtual school, to take it seriously, to log in, to be engaged.
That's for students who have the resources and the internet connection to be engaged.
When it becomes hybrid, if it becomes hybrid, I think the concern is enforcing the rules, the protocols to keep everybody safe, wearing masks, keeping the distance, keeping everything sanitized.
So for the 2020 school year, we can add another R to reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that is reimagination.
This is Dr. Mark Abraham, CEO of MEA Consulting Services. He's a former high school principal, now helping educators.
If I talk to any teacher right now, the thing that I would tell them is pretend that kid that's in your classroom is your kid, right? Like, give that kid an experience that you want your child to have. Teachers, like never before, there's going to be competition for the attention of the student. And the competition is social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Xbox, PlayStation, those type of things. So for the teachers, there has to be a high level of engagement. So instead of teaching them about the circumference of a building, actually go downtown and take a video of the building, things that you would never have an opportunity to do because of budget and because of field trip form, because of all the constraints. You have an opportunity to do something that is so amazing. Oftentimes what we hear, especially in the urban setting, is, oh, it's the kids, oh, it's the parents, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. Sometimes we have to look in the mirror and say, it's us.
Some parents feel as if they've got to play teacher.
Right.
And some feel that they're not equipped to play teacher, especially if you have 2 or 3 kids in the house.
Right. Put your energy in advocacy for your child, which is calling that teacher on the phone, on Zoom meetings, being present, saying, hey, listen, what does my child need to learn? Where should my child be at the end of 2 weeks? It's routines, it's getting them in front of that computer, it's supporting them, it's giving your child grace to disengage. What teachers need to be doing is the things that they normally should be doing, which are thinking about how do we build relationships with students, right? Like, that is the most important thing at this point.
How do they do that, though?
Well, I mean, there's several ways to do that. I mean, it's
When you're virtual.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's asking questions. It's having those one-on-one times with the kids. You know, it's calling them and saying, hey, I need to have an office hour with you to have one-on-one.
And students?
There has to be a no excuse mentality. Like, school is going on, the world is going on. You have to get educated. You have to prepare yourself so that you can be competitive for the workforce. You also have to look at, what do I want to be when I get older? Young people, you have to demand accountability for yourself. If you want to make big faces, Skrilla, paper, cheese, Betty, dough, you know what that means. You're going to have to get an education.
Our kids in the suburbs and then our kids in the city.
Right.
Is this going to be a dividing line?
It does not have to be. Think about the lesson that you're giving them. Be engaging. There might be a divide with urban and suburban, but this is a great opportunity for urban principals, suburban principals, urban teachers, suburban teachers to, hey, what are you guys doing? Like,
Consult.
Yeah, consult. Like, learn from one another. Like, let me sit in a Zoom class with my suburban teacher to see what they're doing. If you have a TV station, you're a reporter, and nobody watches you, you can't blame the community. You probably just don't do good stories. Yeah, right. Like,
That's not the case, but,
right? Like,
yeah, point well taken.
so if kids are not connecting with you, it's probably because your lessons are not engaging. Pick your game up. This is a great time to come together and be creative.
Well, you've probably noticed it by now. Simple walls across Western New York have been turned into works of art, some of them with an important message. Coming up next, we are going to map out the murals for you right here on commUNITY.
In the past, you would see something like this and say it's just graffiti, but these are murals and they're popping up all over Western New York. Someone from our digital staff captured a lot of them across the area. Take a look and listen. Why were you so interested in capturing all these murals around Buffalo?
For me, it was just about exploring Buffalo. We had recently moved to the area. I didn't really know neighborhoods, people, and so for me, when I saw some of the public art going up, I just started Googling different locations, different places, and it just kept branching out more from Hurdle to Elmwood, Allentown to the east side.
What's your favorite mural?
One is the Freedom Wall. That was one of the first ones that drew me in. And just seeing the different artists, whether it's Idris and Julia Bottoms and Chuck Tingley and John Baker.
Ready for some football? Yeah, the Bills start their season tomorrow, and it's going to be a season, well, that's a little bit different to say the least. They will be without their star linebacker, Lorenzo Alexander. He opted out over COVID concerns, but he says he still wants to make an impact.
Retired NFL linebacker Lorenzo Alexander may be far away from Western New York, but when called on to help, he's there. Through his ACES Foundation, he is helping with a project to foster better relationships for all races in Orchard Park.
And we just want to continue to be a part of, the solutions and trying to, bridge communities, try to heal the trauma that has occurred in our country and the things that we still see going on. And, obviously Buffalo is near and dear to my heart. And so any way that I can, help that process along, by connecting people, providing my insight and my perspective, I'm all for that type of change, and that's what it's going to take.
I recognized that as a 30-year-old white man, I'm not exactly the ideal person to be leading this effort. I'm not educated in the details of how to actually address these issues. It's no secret that Orchard Park is predominantly white. We have a predominantly black football team. They come and live and play games here. I wanted to better understand, if there were any issues that they were seeing once moving into the community, and B, if there's anything that the town of Orchard Park could do to help address it.
Forums called Racial Healing Circles were set up through the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo.
But I'm pretty sure there's always, just a perception of the police in black communities, even though it's a small population in Orchard Park, that view the police, and I have, friends and people that serve, and I definitely respect what they do, but the perception isn't always where it needs to be. And I think that's why we need to continue to work on that, find out the solutions.
This is not anti-police in any way.
There is attention on the social inequities in our country, the police community relations, especially in black and brown communities. Now we have to continue to hold our politicians and policymakers' feet to the fire as far as getting things changed in our communities, and making sure that we do it in a way where we are leading with love and not our anger.
Coming up on Community, Alzheimer's in the minority community and honoring those gone too soon.
Well, we've spent a lot of time talking about back to school, but did you know that September is also World Alzheimer's Month? And as our Liz Lewin tells us, the Alzheimer's Association of Western New York is kicking off a series that focuses on being black and dealing with dementia.
Oh my gosh, how do I spell? Let me think. I know how to spell that. That's the hardest thing for me.
March 16th, 2016, a date Arthena Carson and her family will never forget.
I had been trying to get a diagnosis for what was going wrong with me for maybe 3, almost 4 years at that point.
After years of suffering in silence, Arthena was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. At just 51 years old, she was a black woman living with the disease in a community that is statistically misdiagnosed and overlooked. Alzheimer's is the 4th leading cause of death in the African American community. Per the Alzheimer's Association, black and brown people are dying at a disproportionate rate. And yet in their community itself, people are struggling to deal with it.
when you are ashamed and will not tell somebody about this secret, the stress is amazing.
This month, the Alzheimer's Association of Western New York is kicking off a new series that focuses on being Black and brown and living with dementia. The goal, Lauren Ashbourne says, is to promote awareness through conversation and education, with the support of people like Arthena.
It's really necessary to log on to programs like this to make sure that you're educating yourself so you can better care for yourself, care for your loved one, and gain the support that's so necessary.
If you start talking about it today, then you can tell somebody else, and then it'll move on. It'll just keep on moving.
Often we've heard people say 2020 just needs to go away. It's because we've experienced so much grief and loss this year alone. And many people with ties to Western New York are no longer here, but they left a mark in their own way. Rhonda Ricks died last year of cancer at the age of 56. She saw the need to create safe, affordable places to live for all city residents. She was the first woman of color to develop a major real estate project in Western New York. This is her $50 million signature project, The Forge on Broadway, a mixed-income development with 158 affordable apartments. There is now a street sign and mural at Broadway and Mortimer.
Rhonda believed in the east side of Buffalo. We miss her presence, her tenacity, and perseverance.
There's a word called audacious, which means to be daring, to be bold, to be fearless. Rhonda was all of that without apology. Some people feel like when you're daring and you're fearless that you should have to apologize, especially if you're a black woman, because they'll say you're an angry black woman. She was not angry. She was audacious. She knew what she wanted to get done, and she got it done.
People used to ask me all the time, like, what does your mom do? And I would just look at them and be like, it's too much to explain.
Former NBA star Clifford Robinson from Buffalo died of lymphoma at the age of 53. He grew up on the East Side, graduated from Riverside High School, and went on to play for the Yukon Huskies. His career with the Portland Trail Blazers was outstanding. He helped lead the team to 2 NBA Finals.
He's from Buffalo. He's from here. He's from home. He's 10 minutes from my house. You know, go to Delaware Park and see Cliff. I can go to the Randy Smith League and see Cliff. I was walking in the Galleria Mall one time with Cliff. This is a guy who's in the NBA, you know, and for a kid who aspires to do that means the world to me to be that accessible.
Back in those days, man, all the kids wanted to be like Cliff. You know what I mean? They all wanted to be like him because he set a milestone for people here in the Buffalo area that, you know, you work hard, this dream can actually happen to people.
DJ Shea died at the age of 48 of COVID-19. He was a hip-hop producer and founder of Buff City Records.
Shea had music to a T, man. He knew what it was supposed to sound like. He knew what he wanted it to sound like, and he made sure he executed it the way he wanted it to be.
Closely associated with Griselda Powerhouse, some of his artists signed with Jay-Z's Rock Nation and Eminem's Shady Records label. DJ Shea was the grandson of the late Buffalo Music Hall of Fame member Count Rabbit. Chadwick Boseman died of colon cancer. He was 43. Known for The Black Panther and Marshall, part of that film was shot here in Buffalo.
But he was here last summer also to hang out with his friend Addison Henderson, who's from Buffalo, and was shooting a movie here last summer. And Chadwick was a producer on that movie. So he had a very deep connection to Buffalo, the people of Buffalo for sure. And even when he was shooting Marshall, you know, he had such a wonderful experience here and a good time. And he created a lot of friends here in Western New York.
Well, stick around, because up next on Community, we've got a homecoming with the Goo Goo Dolls.
Music is, well, the Goo Goo Dolls. Pete Gallivan has their story because for them, this is home, and they believe in community.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Goo Goo Dolls! John Resnick and Robbie Takak may be global rock stars, but they're Buffalonians first. How important is community to you guys?
Well, I mean, Buffalo is a special place to me. It always has been.
The Goo Goo Dolls formed in 1986 as a hardcore band, a mix of punk and hard rock, coming of age at a time that such diverse acts as Grover Washington Jr., Spyro Gyra, and Rick James were putting Buffalo on the musical map.
Who are your musical influences? I mean, you had so many different musical genres going.
Yeah.
R&B, Lance.
There's so many things.
That, along with an array of independent record stores.
World Records.
New World Records.
And Apollo Records.
Yeah, so we used
Record Theater, all of them, man. Yeah.
You'd find all this stuff that you didn't hear anywhere else. So we get to do that. And that became a huge influence on me, on my songwriting.
But really broke through on the national scene in the mid-90s with their first hit, Name. And now they both have a new name at home, Dad.
Now your dad's family. How has that changed your perspective on how important home is for you and having your roots here in Buffalo?
Your life takes a seismic shift when that happens. When another human being enters your life, your life takes a shift, man. And I would say most of the time it's for the better.
Yeah.
With people.
I think it's crazy to me because it sounds so cliche, but it's like you love this person so much, and it's just, you'll do anything for them.
Both Robbie and John have daughters. Robbie and his family live here in Western New York, and while the Resnicks now live in New Jersey, John, wearing a Bethlehem Steel sweatshirt for the interview, says Buffalo will always be home.
And I'm looking to buy a house here again.
Nice.
Because I'm up here so much to see my family, and I'm just I just want to have some place. I always wanted to be able to. Now I can afford a house right off of Elmwood, like on like on Auburn or something real nice like that. So I'm like, yeah, I'd love to get a house.
Maybe one of the houses you guys used to rent in.
I'm going to buy one of the houses we got thrown out of.
I know what's happened in those houses. Yeah. I don't want to live in those houses.
So whether it's music is art or here at the Variety Kids Telethon back before COVID, these two rock stars may have come from Western New York, but now they jump at every opportunity they can to give back to it.
We want to thank you for joining us on another edition of commUNITY. It's always a pleasure to bring you great stories about great people in Western New York.
And as always, it is a pleasure sharing your stories each and every month here on commUNITY, and we want to hear more of them. You can reach out to Claudine or myself on social media or at WGRZ.com.
Goodbye.